Hey YouTubers, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload. Enjoy the video. Hey guys, welcome back to another Purge discussion review video. Today we're going to be talking about episode 6 of this 10-part series, and let me just say, last time we stopped the episode at really kind of a turning point for the series. I said in my review, it feels a whole lot like they're just now getting to the point where, okay, everything has been set up, now we're going to have to start knocking everything down and getting to the very end of this series. We've reached the halfway point, and now we have to figure out how to end this thing. And it shook up a whole lot of the stuff that we had become used to over the last couple weeks. We had Miguel and Penelope finally being in the same room. We had Jane finally reaching her boss's house, David's house, and trying to stop her assassination attempt. And then we also had Lila just basically disappeared. Jenna and Rick are now on the streets. Where are we going from now, right? And we even started to get a little bit of information on who Joe was. You know, he was kind of a little bit more in the episode than he was in all the other ones. They gave him an extended ending scene. And this one definitely continues on that warpath of we're going to find the ending and we're going to make sure that everyone knows what all of these stories are leading up to and how all these things are going to interact by the end of it. I would be very surprised if all these stories don't come head to head with each other by the end of this series, but who knows? I think that this episode, more than any, really started pinpointing how all of it's going to collide. But with that being said, let's just jump right into what happened. I'm going to do what I do every single week, talking about characters and their story progression without really going scene by scene, and then telling you where I think it's actually going to go versus, you know, what I actually thought of it. I'm going to once again start with what I believe is still the slowest and worst part of the story, even though I think it had a little bit of upkick for it, and that is the Miguel and Penelope story for this Purge television show. I think what they're trying to do with these characters is interesting and a little bit compelling, trying to tie them and their backstory to that first Purge movie that recently came out this past summer. I love that, but everything that they've done with them has just trying to push in a lot of these awesome Purge concepts, like the Carnival of Flesh and the fun run thing they did a couple episodes back, and the bar and all this other stuff that Miguel and Penelope have been accustomed to or even thrust into in the Purge world, just to kind of explore that with the audience. And again, it just doesn't feel right, and this is the only episode that we've ever had of both of them just taking a breath, just allowing them to interact with each other and really in one-on-one talking with each other and trying to work with each other in order to get out of the Carnival of Flesh thing. The problem is we've been at this carnival for too long. It looks cheap, it looks bad. I don't understand why we're continuously focusing on it and why it's hard for them to get out there. I understand you want to build stakes, but for me, it just isn't really working, and I can't wait for them to get out of it. It looks like that's what's going to happen next week, so I'm really excited about that. At the same time, the whole concept with Henry, like, I didn't like his character to begin with. He didn't have a whole lot of awesome redeeming qualities, but I do like the thing where they started him choking Miguel and saying, "It's my right to purge," like at the top of his lungs, because that really brought me back to the very first Purge movie, where you kind of have these rich, affluent looking white kids saying, "Oh, this is our right." And it's like, how far have we gone as a society that people would actually be saying this? But them just keeping the concept of reiterating this over and over, especially in this episode, really gives us the idea of this is what America's become. These are the people. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or whether you're super poor. This is what a lot of the people believe. And even though we haven't seen very many examples of people doing this because it's what they're told to, saying, "Oh, it'll make you feel better and this is the life that you need to live as an American citizen," we've only seen that with Allison, as she killed the guy a couple episodes back and really kind of remorseful the very second that she did it, and trying to cope with the fact that this is why she did it and she did it for a legitimate reason. The reason I'm a little bit resistant for them just continuously spouting off this is what I am, this is what America is, this is my right as an American, yada yada nonsense, is because you don't get a lot of that realization that we got from Allison's character. You don't get a lot of this these people are actual human beings who can't do this. It seems like a lot of Americans, or at least the ones we're focusing on primarily, even though the movies have gone through great length to showcase that it's not all Americans. In fact, very few Americans actually do this. But because this is a show, because you're working with Penelope and Miguel, and then on the streets dealing with everyone who's out at this night, you run into a situation where this is what the American people are, and they're all kind of homicidal maniacs. And I don't know if that's what would happen, or if it's just, okay, this is drama for drama's sake, and they're just running into the worst of the worst people, and this isn't what everyone else is doing. That's one of the things I wish they would have done in the television show, is really showcase more of the lives of people who don't want to do this and what they do or believe from day to day. When it's not the Purge, when it is the Purge, or anything else, but we've been primarily focusing on a small group of heroes getting involved with a lot of different people who just don't give two shits about what happens on Purge night, and they also feel like they're obligated to actually participate. So if you ask me, that's why this is the worst part of the show, Miguel and Penelope, is because it hyper focuses on all of the wrong aspects of the show, not primarily because these two actors are ruining these roles, or that what they're doing is inherently uninteresting. I just think it kind of shines light on the fact that everything that we're seeing is drama for drama's sake, and I'm not really happy with it. But by the time that they get all over with this stuff, they take out Henry, and then they basically set the whole carnival on fire. I mean, literally, they disrupt the entire thing, but they sneak out in body bags, and that's where we left them. So we're going to see what happens with that next week. Obviously, they're still going to be being chased by this cowboy guy that Miguel took out a couple episodes ago. So I think that that's going to lead them into the path of Joe or Jane after she gets out of this stuff, or maybe even Jenna and Rick. Heck, maybe they even run into Lila first, because I hardly think that she actually died. Anyway, with that being said, let's jump right back into one of the more interesting things in the show, and that is Rick and Jenna. I thought these two characters were, from the very beginning, one of the most interesting aspects, but I really thought that they would shake it up last week by letting them leave this party. First of all, leaving the party, I understand trying to show narratively this resistance uprising against the NFFA. I like that concept, especially since this show is taking place in between the first Purge movie we got and the Purge Anarchy, and we got this semblance of the resistance and the Purge Anarchy. This is kind of the first steps of that, and even they've said throughout this entire season that this was going to be the most violent Purge ever, and we've gotten a little bit of hints with the whole resistance and their roadblocks with Miguel and the cowboy guy a couple episodes back. So I understand why they did it, but we didn't spend a whole lot of time with the Purge party. We didn't get to spend a whole lot of time with the NFFA and really exploring the character relations between Lila, Rick, and Jenna. And what if, just what if, even though he's saying he's not throughout this entire episode, what if Lila is right and this is what Rick really wants to do? He really wouldn't mind being an NFA member so long as he can take care of his family, and what would Jenna actually do about that? I wanted to explore that more, but we haven't really gotten that option. Now we just have them somehow literally getting into this episode running on heels. Was she in heels? Because come on, guys. Running all the way from their home, which they Ubered to the house. We don't know how long it actually is from their house to that mansion, but they run all the way home, not getting into any accidents, despite the fact that they look super wealthy, and there's so many people out there tonight that we've seen through the Miguel and Penelope story who would have taken some charge at them or would have actually tried to mess with them. No even tension there. They got them there immediately, and then it was just them fighting the entire episode about whether or not Jenna actually still loves Lila and what the future for their child's going to be like, and then actually making up in the end. It's not that it's bad, it's just that I wanted a little bit more from these characters. And if we had to give up the NFFA storyline this soon into the season, if they had to, as my friend Jacob, who does my Saw videos with me, said, you know, if you have to get rid of Reed Diamond that soon, then there had to have been a legitimately good explanation. And I don't think them just simply running to their house without really any interaction or really hard or hardship during that journey, which should have taken at least an hour or two on foot, in your nice clothes, maybe in heels or something like that. To me, it screams. It screams like, oh, you don't know what to do with these characters, and you would rather them be in a closed-off environment arguing about their relationship and their backstory between them and Lila than actually putting them in harm's way. You know, The Purge is more of a, this is going to be the downfall of our relationship, not because of the fact that you want to kill people or something, but just how we view the world in our ideological ways. You know, Rick is a child who was poor as a child and Jenna wasn't, and now he wants to provide for his family, and the only way he thinks he can do that is by kind of butting up with people from the NFFA who actually have money to give them money to do things and actually be rich in the future. That's really cool, but we could have done that with the entire party. You know, they could have, you know, gone to the room, gone upstairs, done all this other stuff while the tension was building. You know, you have to make this decision. The morning's coming. It's time to actually do this. And if you don't kill someone, it made very clear, if you don't kill someone, you don't get the money. So they're going to fight their ideologies and whether or not it's okay to do this and whether or not Rick's okay to do this or whatever. But they just interrupted everything. They had the resistance people come in and they shot everyone up, and now they're home arguing about the same thing that they could have been fighting about at the party. It just seems like a waste. Maybe it was too expensive to do all that stuff. Maybe this was what's best for the story. And maybe Joe's character, you know, the masked guy who's been listening to this right-wing podcast, like far right-wing, I don't know what you would call it, but like this, you know, assert your right as American and do everything that you can alone, whatever it is, maybe he's going to run into them for one reason or another. I'll get to Joe in just a couple minutes, but I like Rick, I like Jenna, I like everything that they're doing with these characters, and I like I like the story they're telling with these. I like everything that they're doing with these characters in terms of their relationship and what the Purge means to it, but the fact that they changed the settings for almost absolutely no reason, I really don't like that. You know, before I go on, I want to just say huge props to Colin Woodall and Hannah Emily Anderson for really, I think, being the MVPs of this show so far. Everything that they've been doing is really interesting. This episode, before I get into Jane's story, which I think is probably the most interesting of the week, we finally got a chance to explore Joe, this masked guy who we've been following, ever since the second episode, and what he's doing. Now, we don't know what he's doing, and one of the big things that they focused on was, at the very end of the episode, he has this list of people he's hunting down or trying to save or whatever it might be, but at the very end of this episode, we know he's looking for Jane. And I will just say, before I get into any more of it, that I think he's hunting down or trying to kidnap or whatever it might be the people who made sure that he lost his job. It's kind of a revenge situation. He's trying to be the Avenger in that situation, but maybe he's just a good guy and he's going to end up helping, and, you know, he's going to, kind of like in the Purge Anarchy, where the guy wanted to have revenge but ended up having to take care of everyone because he's not a terrible person, and the Purge doesn't just foster terrible people, and there's still some really good people who are out there but will make the right call at the end of the day. I think that's Joe's role in this television show. So I think he's going to get to Jane and all hell's going to break loose in the next couple episodes, and that's really interesting. But yeah, we get a sense that he was a blue-collar worker at a factory. He was really the person helping everyone before they closed down the factory. Everybody lost their jobs, and he got kind of caught up with this unemployment and taking what's yours for the Purge night and really living up to the new American dream of the new founding fathers. And I think that that's really interesting. I can't wait to explore him a little bit more. I hope that they give him more character development as the television show goes on, because the stuff with Joe, at least in my opinion, in this episode really worked, and I think it was the strongest part of the episode. With Jane's character, though, I think her character, out of everyone else in the show, has really risen up to something really interesting. And because of that, you know, the whole her going after trying to save David, that was written on the wall ever since she got to that house, right? This guy knows that she put out an assassination attempt on his life. You know from the moment that she gets in there and they're having this conversation that he took out the assassin, right? That was the big reveal by the end of the episode. The assassin came, they killed her, he wanted her to find it, and then he was gonna take her down to his like sex dungeon or something where everyone was, you know, living in debauchery and stuff, and you don't really know what they're going to do to her. And because she tried to have him killed, I mean, maybe he'll break his rule because he said, you know, no touching, no anything under the clothes, and no one's gonna kill anyone or anything else like that. But Jane has really kind of irked him the wrong way, and I think he's really gonna go after her. So that's where Joe is going to come into all this. I think he's gonna go in here and he's just gonna be whatever, capable enough to kill everyone, who knows. But I like the fact that we finally get some major interaction outside of flashbacks between Jane and David's character. Because say what you want about William Baldwin, he's a Baldwin, I'll give him that. He's definitely a Baldwin where it's like, I can't look at him and see David. I look at him and be like, oh, that's William Baldwin. And it's weird because he's not, you know, William Baldwin isn't like a huge major movie star, but just he looks and sounds so much like a Baldwin that you can't really see past it. But I've been wanting to see this relationship flourish or be fostered in some way, and why they would actually go after each other and just how dark and depraved David's character is. And I really like what they're doing with it. I mean, I love the fact, and I think it's probably the best line that they've said in this entire season thus far. We're going back to the days where men were men and women weren't. And I think that that is, without a doubt, the most realistic thing that any Purge movie or television show has ever said. I think that that would be the driving force for pretty much every red-blooded American male who feels like women or society itself has really, you know, strip their power away, even though that's not the truth, even though that's what the show is trying to argue against, is this isn't what would happen. There would still be really nice people, and the vast majority of people wouldn't actually do this. There would be people at the top of the food chain who would take advantage of this night and take advantage of the people below them because for whatever reason, they think, despite their social class, that they're being attacked every other day of the year, and this is their chance to actually go after the people that they think that they are attacking them, or changing the social structure that's trying to endanger their livelihood or their history or their legacy or anything else like that. And that's why that line sticks out to me. That's why I was really enthralled with what was going on with Jane's character by the end of this episode, and I can't wait to see where they go with it. But, you know, all in all, I think it was a decent episode. I think if it had to prove to me where they're going by the end of this season and how all these stories are going to connect and where all these characters are going and hardships they have to face after the first 5 episodes, if that's what this had to do, I think it did a decent enough job. Of course, I do think that there's a lot of slow moving and nonsensical parts. I still don't like what they're doing with Miguel and Penelope. I like where Jane's character is going. I really think that Jenna and Rick's character have just been skirting by this entire season with absolutely no conflict besides what's going on in their own personal life, which is totally fine because I think that the Purge would bring this out in a lot of people. But it's strange that people dressed in really nice clothes can run directly from this high-end party with nobody seeing them, nobody chasing them, and then simply end up home scot-free, willing to make like breakfast for dinner by the end of the episode. To me, that feels a little bit weird. Of course, they also introduced Joe. Joe is a cool character. I can't wait to see what they do with him as well. So guys, what are your thoughts on the new Purge television show episode 6? I kind of liked it. Think that they need to stop doing some stupid things. I think they need to build tension. I think they need to start connecting these stories sometime soon if they're actually going to do that. But overall, still pretty decent episode. I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It's been real.